Good afternoon, Miss Rusi. Am I pronouncing your surname correctly?
It is Ms. Rusi, Acting Chief Justice. Good
Yes.
afternoon.
How are you this afternoon?
I am well, Acting Chief Justice. Thank you so much. How are you?
I think I'm fine. Thank you. Welcome to this session of the interviews of the Commission, Ms. Rusi.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, and thank you for availing yourself for consideration for appointment as a judge of the Eastern Cape Division.
Thank you, ACJ.
I see that you hold 3 degrees, B.Juris degree, an LLB, and an LLM.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, ACJ.
Yes. And you obtained the B.Juris degree from the University of Transkei in 1997.
Yes, ACJ.
And the LLB in 1999 from the University of Transkei, is that right?
It is so, ACJ.
And the LLM in 2005 from UNISA.
That's correct, ACJ.
Yes. And you you have lectured as well, is that correct?
That's correct, ACJ, as a junior lecturer.
At the University of Transkei.
It is so, ACJ.
Yes, just tell us a little bit more about your life as a junior lecturer at the University of Transkei.
Thank you, ACJ. That began in 2001. I started as a contract employee. At the time, lecturing was more teaching orientated. And I came to realize that that was attributable to challenges that were unique to the institution at the time, institutional challenges, I would say. So as a lecturer, we were assigned specific modules or courses to lecture students on. And I did mention the courses that I would lecture students on, and that entail an assessment of students, but then insofar as delivery of lectures was concerned, it required extensive research and a substantial amount of writing, preparing my lectures. Yes, ACJ.
And for how long did you lecture?
It was from 2001 until 2006, I think, when I then joined Legal Aid South Africa.
Yes.
Yes,
But
ACJ.
you had been admitted as an attorney already at the time you started lecturing?
It is so, ACJ.
Yes. Which year were you admitted as an attorney?
It was in 2001, ACJ. I think it was in March.
Yes. And in terms of practicing as an attorney, did you practice as an attorney at any stage?
It was when I was an attorney in Legal Aid,
Yes.
at Legal Aid South Africa, yes, ACJ.
Yes, and how long was that period?
It was from 2006 to 2009, ACJ, when I took up an acting position as a magistrate in Mount Aleph.
Yes.
Yes, ACJ.
Okay. Now, as an attorney at Legal Aid South Africa, how much exposure did you get to doing criminal trials and civil trials?
By the nature of the organization itself, which at the time was largely dealing with criminal cases. So I was assigned duties as a criminal lawyer, if I were to put it that way. So that continued from 2006. At first, I practiced in the district courts, and later on, I was assigned duties in the regional court. Yes, ACJ.
Okay. And when you were lecturing, did you ever lecture on civil and criminal procedures?
I lectured criminal procedure, law of evidence, and commercial law courses, your law of contract, etc. Yes, ACJ.
Yes. And as a magistrate, did you deal with civil cases? Did you adjudicate civil cases?
In Mount Aleph, I worked with the former head of office there. There was one courtroom, ACJ. So when I arrived in 2009, the duty roster was such that civil court practice was overseen, or rather done, by the former head of office. I did criminal court, and even so, that was on certain days of the week because we had to share that one courtroom. And as and when I did preside over civil cases, it was not that much because it was a small town. Civil trials were really few and far between. So I would not say I did get as much exposure in civil court.
Yes. So is the position that you only got exposure to adjudicating civil cases when you started acting in the High Court?
No, ACJ. When I left Mount Aleph and went to Pietermaritzburg on a transfer, I continued with criminal court until 2019, when I was assigned civil court duties. And that is where I had been until I was invited to act in the High Court in the Eastern Cape Division, ACJ.
So in Maritzburg, is the position that in Pietermaritzburg you adjudicated civil cases as well?
Yes, I did, ACJ.
Yes, and you were in Maritzburg for how long?
From 2013, and I'm still permanently employed as a magistrate there.
So you have had about 7.5 years exposure to civil matters?
No, ACJ. As I respectfully explained a few moments ago, I only got to do civil work in Pietermaritzburg in 2019.
Okay.
Because the rotation takes place at the discretion of the head of court in accordance with the criteria they applied.
Oh, okay. So it's been 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Yes, ACJ.
But you also acted in the High Court during part of this period.
It is so, ACJ, from April 2021.
Yes.
Yes,
so
ACJ.
You have acted for 2 terms in the High Court.
I would say so, ACJ.
Yes.
And I am currently acting.
Yes.
Yes, ACJ.
Yes. Have you done both trials and motion court in the High Court?
Yes, ACJ.
How have you found those to be, those motion court and civil trials?
It was a new challenge, considering the fact that I was coming from the district court and had not had that much exposure to civil court. However, the transition from the judicial experience I had amassed in the district court was somewhat easy. I would say, ACJ, I did manage to rise up to the challenge, and I would attribute that to the research skills that I had gathered when I was a lecturer, such that it was never difficult for me to traverse issues on a given matter before me, to engage counsel, and thereafter to produce a judgment. And all of that was also facilitated by the immense support that I got from colleagues and the mentorship from my seniors. So it was not as challenging as I thought it would be at first. I would say that I managed well with respect, ACJ.
Okay, Judge President.
Thank you, ACJ. Good morning, Ms. Rusi, or good day.
Good day, Judge President.
There's a document serving before you, headed List of Judgments by Eastern Cape Candidates.
Yes, JP.
If we go to pages 10 and 11, it embodies a document that relates to your acting stint in the Eastern Cape.
Yes, JP.
Firstly, before we deal with this document, I just want to place on record something that was said about you. When I was recommending you for a second stint in the High Court, Ms. Monyamure, Chief Magistrate of Pietermaritzburg, had the following to say of and concerning you. I appreciate the appointment given to Ms. Rusi, and I don't doubt her capability and commitment. I know she is representing the Pietermaritzburg cluster very well. I'm just placing that on record. Then let's go to the document, pages 10 and 11.
Yes, JP.
Do you confirm that it is a true reflection of what you have covered, at least during the two terms, the second and the third term, 2020?
I do
2021
confirm.
rather.
I'm sorry, I do confirm, JP.
Sorry. There is a concern that you reserve judgments unduly, which doesn't find support from this document. But let's go to the one judgment, the second last at page 10. It took longer than 3 months. You confirm that?
Yes, I do confirm, JP.
And in accordance with the norms and standards read together with the code of conduct, you precognized me about the challenges associated with that judgment taking a bit longer than usual.
I do confirm, JP.
Can you share with the Commission what those challenges were?
The challenges were basically technical in nature, in the sense that I had finished writing the judgment and sought to send it then to the research component. And it would appear that it was during the time there were challenges with the departmental systems. I got to learn that it was because of the alleged hacking. So when I tried following up with the researchers on the progress, I was informed, unfortunately, that my email had not at the time reached the researchers. So I had to resend the judgment for it then to undergo the processes there. When I received it back, I caused it to be delivered then.
Yes, and the researchers that you are referring to are actually based in Grahamstown, or where?
In Grahamstown, JP.
And at the particular time, where were you stationed within the division?
I would either have been in Mthatha or East London, JP, but not in the Grahamstown station.
Yes, and the sum total of what we have here, against the background that from what I have gleaned, there's only one judgment that was handed down beyond the 3-month threshold period.
Yes.
8
JP.
opposed applications, you confirm that?
Yes, I do confirm, JP.
4 civil trials,
Yes, JP.
2 criminal trials,
Yes, JP.
2 criminal appeals,
Yes, JP.
1 criminal review. At page 11.
It is supposed to be a civil review, JP. That must be an error. the First National Bank Limited
I
versus
see.
Additional Magistrate Petty.
Yes.
Yes,
You're
Chair.
saying review in the context of a review application.
Yes, JP.
Yes. And can you tell this commission briefly whether, in your view, case flow management enhances the litigation process or not?
It does, in my view, in the following sense. It mitigates delays that often happen when cases are, I would say, with utmost respect, hastily placed on roll for trial without the necessary checks being undertaken insofar as those cases are concerned. And I have also observed that through the facility of case flow management, most of the cases that are otherwise sought to be enrolled for trial end up not even getting to trial, whereby some would be settled, either partially or wholly. All in all, I have found case flow management to be an effective tool to ensure that delays in the start and completion of trials are kept to the minimum.
Thank you. And then at page, or perhaps let me simply refer to the letter. It's a letter dated June, 17 June 2021, part of the bundle, book 1 of 1, page 1 of the documents that relate to you. Paragraph 5 of the letter nominating you. In the short period as an acting judge, she has distinguished herself as hardworking, efficient, and justice conscious. Then it goes on to say, this is attested to by judgments which will accompany her nomination package as required. I have no doubt that on a serious consideration of her judgments, the above traits will be easily discerned. Now, the letter is penned by a senior attorney who has acted as a judge, and she had that to say about you. I'm just placing that for record purposes. But my question is more this. Did you find acting in the High Court a very challenging task?
No, JP. In fact, I enjoyed the period of acting. And were it to be a challenge, I would say it is a challenge that I thrived in overcoming. I did enjoy my acting stint and still do, JP.
Yes. But you do acknowledge that High Court work is more challenging than Magistrates Court work.
It is. I say that without a doubt, JP.
And how did you navigate that? How did you get around the problems generally?
Adequate preparation when given work that is assigned to me, making it a point that when I go to court, I know what issues are to be dealt with, how they are to be dealt with, in what direction I would be steering the proceedings. And therefore, I would say that adequate preparation coupled to the support and guidance from those who have been there before me has made it quite easy for me to navigate the challenging ground of High Court work.
There are 5 centers in all in the Eastern Cape: Mthatha, Bishop, Grahamstown, Port Elizabeth. East London is part of Grahamstown, of course. It's a second local division. You did discharge duties at all those centers during your acting stints?
Yes, I did, JP.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Judge President. MEC Gade.
Once more, thanks, CJ. And no, I think I don't have a question. I was just having a concern on the report or submission, CJ, which was indicating that she has reserved judgment unduly. But in the presentation as proved by JP, she actually explained the process that might have been a challenging. That, by the way, she has actually triumphed on it. So I don't have. I'm thankful that they clarified that, because that was just a worrying factor for me because of the implications that are along reserved judgments for unduly, of course, and for a long time. Otherwise, I'm comfortable with the presentations, CJ.
Thank you very much, MEC. President Meyer.
Thank you, ACJ. Good morning, Ms. Rusi.
Good afternoon, President.
In addition to what the MEC has just said, there is another concern that has been expressed by some of the professional bodies that you could probably gain from more acting experience, but I think your work output is evidenced by this document JP Mbenenge has presented us with, dispels that notion.
Thank you, President.
Now, what I want to find out from you is whether you were able to produce any articles during your 6-year stint as a university lecturer.
Unfortunately not, President, for the reason that I respectfully mentioned, that at the time, the main focus for the university seemed to me to be more of teaching, and we did not have the necessary support insofar as writing articles. And I only obtained my LLM degree in 2005, a year before I would then leave the university. I did not have an opportunity to pen any article, President, unfortunately.
All right. My real concern, though, is what has been raised by Ms. Lanjwa.
Yes, President.
Who says that in the early 2000s you worked for an unregistered law office, which was illegally operating as a law office, receiving monies from clients without being registered in terms of the law, and that there was the public suffered huge, immense loss, financial loss when that office was closed, and she says you should have known better. Now, she raises another serious issue that later, around 2009, while you worked for the Legal Aid Board, you accessed and distributed pornographic material using your employer's computers, and you disseminated that material among male candidates, attorneys employed by the Legal Aid Board. And instead of dealing with that issue when it was raised with you, you resigned on a 24-hour notice. What can you tell us about this concerns?
I did have an opportunity to read Ms. Lanjwa's objection, President, and I availed myself of an opportunity to respond. I believe that my response is part of the documents that were then circulated to the honorable commissioners. Insofar as the first part is concerned, I explained respectfully in my response that in 2001, after my admission, that was before I got the contract employment at the University of Transkei, I secured employment at Advocate or Professor Dlova's offices as his researcher. That was not a long stay. because his office was not busy. I felt that I was underutilized because I would find myself doing other duties of office messenger. So it is my respectful view that Ms. Lanjwa's allegations are of no basis. I never dealt with any of Professor Dlova's clients. And at the time I was there, I had never been aware of any complaint regarding the illegality of his practice. I was merely a researcher, an employee of his.
So you did not know that the operation was unlawful?
I never received any information to that effect, President.
The second one?
At Legal Aid South Africa, we shared computers, President. And on my arrival, I found a setup similar to this, an open plan, where anyone would use any computer at his or her convenience. There was, of course, a stage where the management of Legal Aid South Africa complained that practitioners and other staff members were using office computers for private matters, private material. And when it was said that certain obscene material had been discovered in one of the computers, I was never shown any such obscene material. And I had never been told that this is the private material that belonged to you, that we found in the computer. So when I saw the objection, it was really difficult for me to even defend myself, so to speak, because I know the setup of Legal Aid South Africa at the time. Ms. Lanjwa appears to be a member of the community, never had been an employee of Legal Aid South Africa at the time I was there. So that's as far as I can take it, President. No obscene material was ever presented to me as being the obscene material that was, I'm not even sure how, President, it would have been possible for me or anyone, I would say, to access obscene material at Legal Aid through computers when there was not even access to internet. That's as far as I can take it. I was never, or rather, I never accessed any such obscene material.
Well, she goes further and says you were actually sued by the Legal Aid Board and it got a judgment against you in the Mthatha High Court. What was that in relation with? Was it in relation with this obscene material, or what was that about?
I was practically confounded. I was never sued by Legal Aid South Africa, President.
So there's no judgment?
There is no judgment against me by Legal Aid South Africa. Hence, I did mention in my response that, by all accounts, it would appear that Ms. Lanjwa's objection is malicious and somewhat defamatory. I was never sued by Legal Aid, and I did read, if I may go further, I did read that she says, while there was the issue regarding the obscene material and misuse of computers, I sped off to elsewhere on 24 hours notice. If I may respectfully ask to expand on the circumstances under which I left Legal Aid, with the permission of ACJ.
Yeah, yes, tell us.
When I arrived at Legal Aid in 2006, I had applied, or rather in 2009, early around June, July, I would say, I had applied to the Magistrates Commission for permanent appointment as a magistrate. That was while I was still in Legal Aid. So in October 2009, a magistrate or colleague met his untimely death, and the then Chief Magistrate Mpogane wanted someone to fill up the gap. I was one of the persons that were contacted by Chief Magistrate Mpogane to take up that task. I saw no reason why I shouldn't at the time, knowing very well that I had taken a leap of faith and applied earlier before that time. So I did not hesitate. I took up the position for purposes of career growth, amongst other things, of course.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kosi. I'm
Thank you,
satisfied.
President.
Yes, Commissioner.
CJ, I beg your indulgence. I want to forego my opportunity to ask questions.
Yes.
If you allow me to make some follow-ups
A follow-up.
on
Okay,
the
all
questions that President
right. Okay, all right.
has posed to the applicant.
Okay.
Now, let's start with this one of Legal Aid Board.
Yes, Commissioner.
When these allegations were made against you, according to this, you immediately resigned. You're saying that is not true.
The allegations were not even directed at me individually. All staff was confronted with the complaint that you are misusing office computers.
I mean, according to this.
Yes, according to Ms.
You
Landwa.
immediately resigned within 24 hours. I want to follow the sequence of what I pick up here in relation to your
Well,
your responses.
it would be difficult for me to answer in accordance with what Ms. Landwa says, which I know has no truth in it. I resigned because an opportunity for career growth had presented itself at the time. A magistrate had died in Mount Alief, so I took up the post upon invitation of the then Chief Magistrate Mpogane.
Okay, that's fine. Now, you were saying to this commission that you don't have any judgment against you, even if an investigation can be undertaken. You don't have any judgment whatsoever.
I was never sued by Legal Aid. In fact, as I read Ms. Landwa's complaint, she says, as a result of me leaving Legal Aid on 24 hours, I was sued. I found that to be, with respect, outrageous. No one gets sued, in my respectful view, for exercising their legal right, their contractual right to leave employment. No judgment was ever obtained as alleged by Ms. Landwa against me, or at all.
Okay, the last one in relation to the unregistered law firm.
Yes.
Was this firm unregistered?
I do not.
Or was
At
there
the time, it had never come to my attention that Advocate Glover or Professor Glover was operating an illegal establishment. I was 24 years old, fresh from admission, with the pressure of getting employment.
No, it's okay, so I understand.
Yes, so it was never brought to my attention. I never heard of any complaint, Commissioner, that there was illegal operation going on there. And even though I was employed there as a researcher, nothing would have prevented me, had I known then, from leaving that establishment.
Okay, are you saying to this day, you are not aware that at some point this law firm was not registered? You don't have that information whatsoever?
At the time I was there, I was not aware. However, I have heard recently, and I think I read a judgment.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Dodova, do you think it will help? Because if she, at that time, didn't know anything, even if she subsequently got to know that it was illegal, the firm was not registered,
It's okay.
she would remain innocent.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just a quick
Thank you.
follow-up to follow my question.
Yes, Commissioner Klaver.
Thanks, CJ. Good day, Ms. Rusi.
Good day, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. And I just want to follow up on the resignation issue.
Yes.
Were you not obligated to serve a notice period? And then maybe the question following immediately after that one is, when did you resign? The month, maybe let's leave it at that, month and year, and the date, and the month and year when you assumed the new job.
Okay. I would not remember the exact wording of my contract of employment. However, I know that an employee would have to serve their month period before resignation. If they don't, they would forfeit benefits accruing to someone that had duly served that notice. So in my case, having weighed my options, I decided to forego whatever benefits would have accrued to me by virtue of having fully complied with the service period. Remember, Commissioner, this is an organization I came to in 2006. I had made my observation. I had reviewed my position as an attorney there and assessed the potential for growth and opportunities insofar as that growth was concerned. That is why I did not bat an eyelid, leaving the organization when an opportunity presented itself. And for the sake of completion, Commissioner, I seem to remember that I resigned on 3rd or 5 October 2009. The following Monday, I started in Mount Alief because Mr. Kuchwa was no more.
Thank you so much.
Well, Ms. Rusi, I think the issue that is raised by Commissioner Klaver is important.
Yes,
I'm not
ACJ.
sure that your answer deals with it. I think his question goes to the question of whether you were under an obligation to give a longer notice or to give proper notice. Your answer doesn't seem to deal with that. What was your contractual obligation before you could leave?
Sorry, ACJ.
Normally you wouldn't be allowed to just up and go. So what was your contractual obligation in terms of giving notice?
It would have been that I ought to give notice. However,
How much notice?
It would be a month.
Yes.
At most.
Yes.
There's something that I should.
And you did not give a month's notice?
No, I did not, ACJ.
Did you secure an agreement from your employer so that the employer could waive a month's notice?
They accepted my resignation, ACJ. Perhaps with leave of the ACJ. I should mention that because of, and I say this with utmost respect to the leaders of the organization, because of the toxic and to some extent oppressive nature of the environment at Legal Aid, it had become a norm for practitioners who get better opportunities to give 24 hours notice to avert any form of sabotage, if I may put it that way. And a lot of my colleagues there would attest to this. Not that I endorse this.
If a few people do something wrong, Ms. Rusi, it doesn't become right just because there are a number of people who have done the wrong thing.
Yes, ACJ.
If you were under an obligation to give a month's notice, isn't the position that you had to give a month's notice, or you approach the employer and ask the employer if they can agree that you don't give a month's notice and leave immediately. Isn't that what?
Ideally, ACJ,
Yes.
that is so. However, I was amongst practitioners who found themselves in that kind of an environment. And as I respectfully explained, I also understood at the time that if I do not serve the month's notice period, I would then forgo the benefits accruing to someone that served the notice,
What
ACJ.
benefits are you talking about?
When
Notice are good. I mean, if you serve the notice,
it is,
and in other words, you tell your employer on the 1st of the month that this is my last month. At the end of the month, I'm leaving. And they allow you to work. They know that you will be leaving at the end of the month. They start making arrangements because you have told them. That is serving your notice, okay?
yes, ACJ.
If you wish to be released from that obligation, you speak to your employer and say, I know that I'm under obligation to serve a month's notice, but I am in this situation, and you explain your situation. I might lose this opportunity. Would you mind to waive the right to a month's notice? Maybe I can give you a week's notice or 24 hours notice. Or they might say, okay, you can up and go because we appreciate your situation. We will be able to manage. Then you have made arrangements. That's different.
Yes. Thank you, ACJ. It is indeed so. Ideally, the benefits I am referring to would be the salary. I lost.
But you would not be
on the
entitled to a
salary.
salary if you didn't work.
That is what I.
If you didn't work for a month because you just upped and go and went, you would not be entitled to a month's salary.
Indeed.
So there's nothing you would be forfeiting.
Indeed, ACJ. However, in my view, in so far as the contract of employment with legal aid was concerned, I had also understood that nothing would prevent me from giving 24 hours notice given the circumstances. And as I respectfully mentioned, the environment was never conducive for any accommodation of employees when things like that emerged.
Thank you, Commissioner Nojesi.
Thank you very
Just a
much.
follow-up.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, there are many follow-ups before I speak.
Yeah,
It's the sixth
hang on.
follow-up. We
No,
are following,
yeah.
there was follow-up.
Nojesi.
No.
Okay,
This is not
Nojesi,
right.
go ahead.
This is not right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's like I will run this through follow-ups. It's so right. Now, look,
He
what
has
I
been
want.
waiting for a long time.
Yeah, thank you. What I want from you, the relationship between you and the legal aid is just a private matter.
Yes, Mr. Nokesi.
As to you submitting a resignation letter that being accepted by the legal aid.
Indeed.
Is there any other point who must be involved on this?
I believe not.
Secondly, before you come to act in the Eastern Cape, sir, I have to say this. The attorney's profession in the Mthatha area actually had handed you and submitted your name to the JP because of your expertise. Are you aware of that? That your name, among other names that were submitted to the JP as a person who is recommended to be appointed for acting because of your capacity and expertise.
Now that you are mentioning it, Commissioner Nokesi,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that.
And there is a letter here written by the,
What page of the bundle, please?
I'm not
Mr.
sure on the feedback, if you have the small, but I will read the portion on the feedback. This is a letter by the entire Coastal Attorneys Association, which constitute the former Transkei area. And this is what they write. Paragraph 4. It is indeed our considered view that Ms. Rusi is not only fit and proper person to be elevated to the High Court on permanent basis, but is a suitable candidate for the above-mentioned vacant position. Have you seen that statement?
I have seen it, Mr. Nokesi.
And lastly, within the short space of time that we have acted in the Eastern Cape, as it is demonstrated in this list that we have given of judgments,
Yes, Mr. Majesty.
within that short space of time, we have produced so many judgments as they are reflected.
Yes, Mr. Majesty.
Thank you, Ms. Rusi, for availing yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Majesty.
Yes.
Just one aspect. I think it's going to resolve a
To
number
resolve,
of things.
okay, all right, quickly.
It is a matter of concern for me that objections will be raised and then candidates will respond as done by Ms. Rusi in a letter dated 23 September 2021, dealing with all this concern on an ad paragraph basis. And then we are detained here. Same questions are raised against the background that there was a response and the letter was disseminated to all of us. Then it means if we never received this letter by Ms. Rusi, then somehow there's a problem with the system.
Well, one needs to strike a balance.
Yes.
Because it's a transparent process.
I have no qualms with that,
Yes,
but
yeah.
the structure
Yeah.
of the questions
Yeah,
clearly moves from the structure moves from the premise that
Yeah.
she must deal with these things. Sometimes we don't even have to hear some of spurious allegations against candidates.
yeah, no.
For
some of them,
instance,
they
if
just
one
need-
does short shrift in the form of a letter, it's as simple as we may not even have to follow up on some of the things.
No, some of them, we don't have to check
True.
to follow up all of them, yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you, ACJ.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Nyambi was the next one, and then I think after
ward.
her, it's then it will be Commissioner Sepu and Schlema. Okay, Commissioner Nyambi.
Thank you, ACJ. Afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Given the discussion and the letter that you have written to us and the information you have now,
Yes.
with the hindsight, don't you see anything that is wrong about the entire process?
My resignation at Legal Aid, you mean, Commissioner?
Yes, I'm talking about the letter that you wrote to us and the issues that they wrote about the objection. Sitting here now in the discussion after going through the letter and the process and reflecting about everything, don't you see anything that is wrong? As far as we are concerned with hindsight, we are still of the view that we have done almost everything in the correct way.
I hope I am understanding your question, Commissioner. When I received the objection by Ms. Lanjwa, I immediately penned a response.
Let me assist you. I'm saying there are some objections, right? We have gone through them, we have assisted us, we have responded in detail as clarified by JP.
Yes.
But I'm saying with the hindsight, because we have indicated that some of the issues we're not aware. But sitting here now and being aware and after the discussion, do you still of the view that everything that you have done, given another chance, you can still do things the same way?
No, not at all. Insofar as Advocate Lova's practice is concerned, it is indeed regrettable that I got to learn much later of things such as those. And insofar as the 24-hour resignation, that is not something I would do in the near future. And I don't condone what I had done in 2009.
My last, it's a comment, and then I'll quickly do it. Then you'll also comment if you want to.
Yes, Commissioner.
I get a sense that in dealing with the issues, like once you say there were some people working using the computers, it's like you are justifying. But there's nothing wrong when you're still young to come here and take responsibility and will understand that. But once you want to justify, it's like you don't understand the magnitude. Imagine sitting here as members of parliament, as judges, as people representing these law bodies, and then you happen to have headline news saying an attorney that distributed pornographic material has been appointed by the JSC to be judge in Mthatha. It's not just putting the judiciary into dispute, but also us as members of this commission. But if you take responsibilities, assisting us to understand issues that happened a long time ago, instead of refreshing them as if they are new, they happened yesterday.
And unfortunately, Commissioner, I'll say this with the greatest of respect. Ms. Lanjwa's objection is simply spurious. I mentioned this to some of the colleagues, or rather my family members, when I showed them this objection that, if I knew that there was a shred of truth in what Ms. Lanjwa is saying, I was going to spare myself the indignity and the embarrassment of sitting in front of this honorable commission with everyone, literally the whole world, watching me, being confronted with such things. This is what I told my family, that if I knew that there was an inch of truth in these things, I was going to withdraw. And I did not, respectfully, because I knew that here in this objection was nothing but malice and defamation, or an intent to defame me. I had never met a person by the name of Lanjwa Xoliswa ever in my life, not in my professional or personal capacity. Like I said, respectfully, she was not even a member of Legal Aid South Africa staff.
So you actually don't know her?
I literally, ACJ, I've never met Lanjwa. And what I noted from her objection is that she approaches the commission on anonymous basis, is not telling the commission what community she comes from. So it is difficult for me to take responsibility for something I know I would never do. Something I know, I make sure even now, ACJ, that my children do not experience those things to the best of my ability, of course. It is difficult to defend yourself against something like this when you know that there's no truth in it. And there's none.
Thank you. Commissioner Mthatha.
Thank you, CJ. Acting CJ. I'm sorry, Mr. Rusi, but I think you covered it because I wanted to see who's this Miss Lanjwa, or whether you know her or what.
I don't even know her.
Yeah.
You know?
And
Okay.
what pains me the most, with the leave of the ACJ, is that I've made so much sacrifice to be where I am in life. I was listening to Commissioner Nukesi tell me for the first time how my invitation to act in the High Court came about. I was not aware. I've worked so hard, sacrificed quite a lot to be the kind of person that I am, to be where I am. For me to just allow someone to put a blemish on all of that.
I think you have addressed it. You say
Thank you so much,
don't even
ACJ.
know this person.
I really
Yes.
don't.
I think Commissioner Moimang, and then it will be Commissioner Schlemmer.
I'm covered.
You are
ACJ.
covered. Thank you very much, Commissioner Schlemmer.
Thank you, ACJ. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Could you please just put my mind at ease? I'm still a little bit concerned about your experience in civil law. And when you answered about some of the questions with the delayed judgments, there was talk about the researchers who are far away I'm not sure exactly, in Grahamstown, and you were sitting in Mthatha. Was that part of the reason? It seems like they were the civil law matters that you were dealing with, that you had more difficulty potentially in coming to a final conclusion and therefore had to draw more on the researchers, or am I understanding it incorrectly?
With respect, Commissioner, you are understanding it incorrectly. I delivered those judgments within the 3 months period. It was in respect of the one judgment that Judge President brought to my attention that there was a delay to the extent reflected in the document. And my taking the time I had taken had, in my respectful view, or it cannot be attributed to the fact that I had no exposure, because at the end of it all, I applied my mind to each of the 17 matters, resolved the dispute between the parties, ensured through my judgments that the parties followed my reasoning. That is as far as I can take it. And even though I acknowledge the fact that I had not had as much exposure to civil work, having acted in the High Court for this short period, I can assure this commission that I have now become more confident and more comfortable traversing issues coming from the civil court. And I believe, with respect, that the judgments I have in turn produced do tell insofar as that is concerned. That is as far as I can take it, Commissioner. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Klaba, are you covered?
Yes, I'm covered.
You're
Thank you so
covered.
much.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners on the virtual platform, is there anybody who has any question there?
Yes, ACJ, it's Commissioner Barnard.
Yes, Commissioner Barnard.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Rusi, perhaps also thank you for taking the commission into your confidence and doing effort to in the last couple of months also to show respect and getting out judgments. I think it's really impressive. The legal aid stuff happened long ago, but these judgments are very recent, and one notes from it that you made real effort. So the question here is maybe just with reference to the geographical location. I mean, Kanda, Bishu, East London, Mthatha, these are places far apart, and you seem to have appeared in all of those courts. That's my first point. And the second point is to just illustrate what type of commitment you showed to this process is, if you look at the 17th of August on the report that you did, you actually handed down 3 judgments, one in a civil trial in Bishu, one in a opposed motion in Bishu, and then a criminal appeal, which was then in Grahamstown, is indicated here. So that shows quite some commitment. Perhaps maybe your comment on that as well, please. Thank you.
I hope I understood Commissioner Barnard correctly. In the Eastern Cape Division, there is a system of rotation of judges. No judge gets stationed in one court for a continuous period. That is why in a given week, I would be in Mthatha attending to Mthatha duties, a week or two, depending on whether that is criminal court or civil court. In another week, I would be in Bishu. In another week, I would be in East London, Grahamstown, attending different duties in those courts. And the reason I delivered these 3 judgments on the same date is that there was a point where I sat in opposed motion and attended to 4 opposed motion matters. So I'm not sure if I am answering Commissioner Barnard's question, because indeed the Bisho matter and
It's item 2, 8, and 13 are all on the 17th. I'm just trying to
Yes,
follow the
indeed.
commitment process.
Yes, I had heard the matter of Hoji, for example, on 13 May, and heard the matter of Gola from 6 to 12 May. So after finishing the trial of Gola, I was stationed then in Bisho, where I heard this opposed matter. So I then finished these judgments around the same time. That is why then they were delivered on the dates as we see in this spreadsheet.
So thank you very much, and just thank you on behalf of the profession and the public for getting out these judgments. I think many people were waiting for them, and you showed true commitment in that. Thank you very much.
It is
Thank
much
you.
appreciated, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnard. I take it there is no other question from the commissioners on the virtual platform. I think we have come to the end of this interview. Thank you very much, Ms. Rusi, for availing yourself. You are now excused.
Thank you, ACJ, and thank you so much to the commissioners.
Thank you.